in honor of former Cleveland Indians ace and new pitching assistant for the Cleveland Guardians, Corey Kluber. Welcome into the 28th episode of Cleveland Sports Realm. I am joined alongside Jerome Pedikauskas. I am Kevin Shagru. Behind the camera, as always, is producer Eric, doing a fantastic job as always. Jerome, obviously we're recording this Wednesday evening, so as of last night, Tuesday night, elephant in the room here, we can get to Game 5 of the second round of the Eastern Conference playoffs. Was not an ideal playoff run for the Cleveland Cavaliers in the absolute slightest. One of the more disappointing seasons that I can remember, even though the last two seasons I feel like have both been disappointing. I feel like this is the most disappointing since those last couple years of LeBron's first stint here with those NBA Finals expectations. But obviously, a lot to say about this. Jerome, how are we feeling right now this Wednesday evening?
I mean, I think the fan base is collectively feeling terrible. There were some naysayers out there, and there were some people who didn't believe in the Cavs, and, they were proved to be right because the same problems that the team had last year in the playoffs arose again. And I get it. Injuries are true, and they did happen. But I don't think it was the main culprit for why the Cavs were gentlemen swept for the second straight year in the second round. Unacceptable failure by everybody in the organization. I mean, just horrendous. And I know it's a minor thing, but, everybody had talked about the Cavalanche, and Dan Gilbert paid – Jason Lloyd wrote in his article in The Athletic today, Dan Gilbert had paid $500,000, which I know is nothing to him.
Sure.
But still, $500,000 for that Cavalanche fake snow to fall in the arena.
Okay.
They only used the thing one
used
time.
It one time.
The entire postseason. That just kind of describes in a nutshell what a failure this was.
Yeah, I think it absolutely does. And I think when looking at the last 3 years of the Cavaliers, we can kind of say a new era started once the Donovan Mitchell trade was complete and we acquired him. We've had 5 playoff series in the last 3 years, and I would say 3 of them were disappointing. Obviously, you went into New York in 2023, lost in 5. You were favored in that series. Following year, that young Magic team took us to 7, which should have never happened. That should have been a 5-6 game series at the absolute max, and that followed by that Celtics series, which obviously the Cavs were railed by injuries. So can't really count that as disappointing. Obviously took care of business against the Heat this year, as they were supposed to, and then yet another disappointing performance against the Indiana Pacers. And, I went into this series thinking that the Cavs would get this done in 5. You and I believe, both predicted 5.
We both said 5 on this podcast,
yeah,
but we didn't think they would go 5 this way.
No, correct. And I thought it would go at 6 at the absolute max in favor of the Cleveland Cavaliers. And we're looking at that series being over, Jerome, like you just said, over in 5 games with the Indiana Pacers going to the Eastern Conference Finals. And I think what just puts a little bit of salt into the wound here for us is that Celtics team that we've had such a hard time getting past now has that Jason Tatum injury, ruptured his Achilles, done for the year, done for probably most of, if not all of next year.
Probably.
And you were looking at going up against that Knicks team potentially. If you got past that Pacers team, you were going to face a Knicks team that you dominated all year. So I mean, it's and obviously the playoffs are a different animal. And looking at this series in general, I think we did look past the Indiana Pacers as cautious as we were trying to be when we were doing our preview of this series a couple weeks ago, saying that we didn't want to look past them. And I think the fan base and the team absolutely did.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. And here's the thing. Looking at this, even had they beaten the Pacers, which clearly was never going to happen, Kevin, I don't think they would have beat the Knicks.
I don't either.
I don't think there's any way they would have beat the Knicks because I'm going to go ahead and assume, which we know what happens when you assume things.
Yep.
But I am going to go ahead and assume that the Knicks beat the Celtics. And look, because even people saying, oh, well, the Tatum injury. No.
Well, the game will be over by the time this comes out Thursday morning. But, yeah, I'm assuming the Knicks will be taking care of business as well.
Right. And I don't think the Tatum injury is any excuse for why the Knicks are up 3-1. First of all, look, the Knicks were already up 2-1 when Tatum was healthy. And then Game 3, they were up by 12 when Tatum blew his Achilles. So that they were going to win that game no matter what. The Celtics fans using that as the excuse. Go.
How much time was left in the game when Tatum got hurt? If you don't mind me asking, I think it was 2 to 3 minutes left in the game.
I believe we
roughly.
were watching it together, right? And I
Right.
want to say about 2.5 minutes. And the
Okay.
Knicks were up 12 at that point, so I don't see Boston winning that game.
They could though. I mean, the Cavs were up 7 with 45 seconds left and managed to blow it in Game 2 of the quarterfinals.
Yeah,
I mean,
well,
it happens. But the thing is that the game was not over. I mean, I still think the Knicks probably hold on, but you can't. I don't think you can count that Celtics team out of potentially making a comeback with their best player on the court.
Yeah, see, I was, because at that point they were already deflated. Just because, and maybe I'm wrong, but just from watching the game, the way the game was flowing, Brunson was in takeover mode. He was running the whole show.
He's a stud.
Tatum had missed a couple shots right before that. I know he had 42 points in that game before he did rupture his Achilles, but at that point, no matter what, I think, again, and we brought this up last week on the podcast, and I think it's worth mentioning again because I think it does have some validity here tonight. Look, everyone criticizes Tom Thibodeau for what he does, and a lot of times he's been criticized and made a fool for doing it. And last year it didn't work because by the end of the series when they played Indiana, I think they had like 6 healthy bodies left against the Pacers in the conference semifinals. But there's something to be said about having your body ready to play those 44 to 48 minutes that he requires out of his starters come the postseason, outside of Cat, who's obviously a bigger guy anyhow. But look at the Cavaliers. I mean, God bless him. Donovan Mitchell was doing everything he could, but he'd get to 34, 35 minutes. The guy looked like he needed an oxygen tank out there.
Yeah, he was still dealing with that injury, though, so I think a lot of it is probably attributed to that. In terms of his actual fatigue throughout the night, I think a lot of it probably might have to do with that leg injury he was dealing with.
Yeah, which could be the case. And, I mean, but the Cavs were just not, like, all their starters could not handle the immense amount of minutes, and they prepped the whole year for that. They told us that back in November. Well, we played this, that was Kenny Atkinson's big claim to fame, and, well, it's looking like it was all a waste. And that's how I feel today as a Cavs fan, is it was all a waste. And all these people, Kevin, who, I sat here and told them they were clowns, they were idiots, they were this and that, and they had no clue what they were talking about, who told me that the Cavs had no chance of getting there. Some people even said, most people said they had no chance of getting by Boston, thought they'd get to Boston, but there were a few out there who said they weren't even going to get past the second round. And I told them, on this podcast, I thought those people were nuts. They were right. Like, they were 100% right. This team, and I think you said this to me today before we started recording, this team is no better than it was last year.
No, it's not. It's the same exact result. You lost in 5 in the second round, and you could actually make the argument that this team took a step backwards from last season because you lost in 5 in the second round, and you lost it to a team that wasn't as good as the team you lost to last year.
Yeah, no, that's a fair point, but I think, as Cavs fans and fans of the National Basketball Association, let's start giving Indiana their flowers, as the kids like to say.
Sure,
today,
no,
because I mean, you're talking back-to-back conference championship appearances.
Yeah.
Then you're talking about. I mean, I don't put much into it, but they did win that the AAU style thing the NBA puts on in the winter.
I will say this though: this is the second year in a row that the Pacers have gone through an injury-riddled playoffs.
Right.
They beat the Knicks when the Knicks were hobbled. They beat the Bucks last round when Damian Lillard got hurt, and then they just beat the Cavs, who didn't have their all-star point guard for 2 of the games, was playing injured for the last 3. Mobley was dealing with that issue. Mitchell was dealing with the issue that he was played through the entire time. DeAndre Hunter had the injury. So, I mean, Indiana's been lucky enough to have faced, I should say, beaten up teams the last 2 years in order to make those conference finals appearances. And I know it sounds like I'm taking that, like I'm kind of taking the credit away from them, and I guess in a sense I kind of am, but I do also want to give them credit, though, because Tyrese Halliburton, I think, has put all the overrated stuff to bed. He's hit clutch shot after clutch shot, clutch possession after clutch possession for that Pacers team, and was able to carry on. I still think I do want to go on record. If we're fully healthy, I do think we lose that series still. I think they were just so so much more physical than we were, and it seemed like as soon as they started bullying us around, it got into our heads, and we weren't even running an offense anymore. It seemed like it was Donovan Mitchell chucking up threes, which he wasn't hitting. Max Strus didn't hit any in Game 5, and it was, I'm kind of at a loss for words for how the season's gone for us.
The thing that made the Cavaliers successful all season long, from my evaluation of it, is, they move the ball better than just about anybody. They move the ball, and they got to the playoffs, and it was all ISO ball. The stuff that they were running for Evan Mobley didn't seem to be there anymore. They tried. I get it. Donovan Mitchell should be the focal point, but it was almost like force-feeding him to be the focal point, not involving anybody else. I mean, they look, and I hate saying this because I literally sat here in this exact same chair, or, in the previous setup when we had the old setup here in Studio Derek, I've been beating the drum they're going to win the championship all year long, and I really, truly believed it, and I just can't say I was dead wrong on everything. Everything. Hey. They're not a better team than last year. Kenny Atkinson, what makes him more special than JB? They won 64 games, well, it did prove to me nothing. Yeah. And everything that they didn't change much. And now, they ran it back last year. They're now in a position, I don't think they can run it back. They absolutely cannot run it back. Now, listen, I said to you and a couple of our other buddies in a group message today, I said, I'm not going to sit here and pretend to our listening and viewing audience that I understand the NBA salary cap at all. They ought to have a college course on that thing. It is the most complicated salary cap in sports.
Honestly, salary cap in general for a lot of these leagues, I don't understand how it works sometimes. And we've been following the league for 25 plus years.
But the NBA is the most complicated. And I guess from people who know better than me, and there's a lot of them about this stuff, the Cavs are in some kind of apron. I thought aprons were used when people cooked in the kitchen. I don't know.
Well, now the Cavs are in the second apron.
Yeah. So what's that mean? The first one got dirty with the mixer, the hand mixer. Kevin, I don't understand it.
Here we go.
But the bottom line is, the Cavs are in. The one apron wasn't enough for them in the kitchen. They're in some kind of second one, so they have some kind of mid-level exception is all they can use to side.
Which kudos to Dan Gilbert for honestly doing that and spending the money in order to get us there. It just hasn't. Obviously, the result hasn't been there, but we appreciate the generosity of your
Dan
money
Gilbert's
of dipping into that second
owner.
apron.
I mean, it's on the players, the coaches, and the front. Everybody else. I mean, I'm not putting this on Dan because when Colby Altman's asked for him, to step in and asked for his checkbook, Dan's delivered his checkbook every time, on and off the court.
Do you put any of the blame for the end of the season, how everything shaked out for the Cavs? Do you put any of the blame on Kobe Altman? We've talked about Kenny Atkinson, we've talked about the players. Do you shoulder any of that burden on Kobe Altman at all?
I find it hard to do this time, and I'm usually one to criticize him, but league-wide, these people who've covered the league for years, whether it's Brian Winter, Stephen A. Smith, a lot of former players, they were praised and glorified for going to get DeAndre Hunter. They said this is the move that will have Cleveland beat Boston.
I thought it was the move. I didn't think it was the move to get us past Boston, but yeah.
Shaquille O'Neal, I respect those guys inside the NBA a lot, Shaq, Chuck, and Kenny, because they're kind of going to tell you how it is. Okay? Right. They don't hold anything back. And those guys were all banging the drum of the Cavaliers. I find it, and everybody gave Colby Altman credit for what he did, Colby Altman. And he made the move that they need to make. The players and the coaches just did it. Look, Rick Carlisle's a phenomenal coach, and I don't know. I think in the NBA playoffs, coaching does matter.
Absolutely.
And Kenny Atkinson just, as much as we glorified him and congratulated him, and he did win Coach of the Year, and deservedly so, because it's a regular season award and the Cavs were phenomenal. But he didn't do anything better than J.B. Bickerstaff, in my opinion. He did nothing better than J.B. Bickerstaff, and that was the only thing they changed in the offseason. Well, it didn't work. Then you go get DeAndre Hunter. You get praised for it. It didn't work. Look, DeAndre Hunter was kind of a no-show the entire playoffs. I guess he had that one good game against Miami where he had 25 points. But, I mean, the Heat stunk. I mean, come on. They rolled out the ball and beat the hell out of the Heat.
Yeah, they did.
It's like the Cavs weren't a good playoff team, and you wonder.
And they haven't been for 3 straight years.
And you wonder, had Miami played anybody else, would it have been even worse? I mean, your mind goes to wonder that. So,
like if they face Boston or something, you're saying? If the Heat face Boston?
Yeah, or the Knicks or anything of that
Sure.
nature. Indiana, the Pacers. I mean, I find it hard to put it on the president of basketball ops here when the guy he went out and traded for didn't really do anything in the postseason. The roster that was in place, which was universally acclaimed as being deep and phenomenal. Your 6th man of the year candidate crapped himself until last night. He actually did give them a spark and kind of really led them getting back into that thing last night. But you blew 20-point leads. You blew 19-point leads. I don't know. I can't put this on the front office, but this offseason, I am going to put it on the front office. Whether their Cavs need 16 aprons or whatever, they better go figure out and change something because this ain't it.
So obviously, I mean, we're both in agreement here that something needs to change amongst the core of the Cavs right now. The question is basically, what is that going to be, right? Because you're looking at Garland. It's the same questions we had last year. Garland, Mitchell, can they coexist? Mobley, Allen, down in the paint, can they coexist? They coexisted for 82 games. They got to the playoffs and faced a quality opponent, and then they couldn't coexist all of a sudden. They weren't physical like they were in the regular season. So where do you look at right now of how do you get this team better? Obviously, we don't know who the superstars or stars or players that are going to be made available or might request a trade or might request to be released or whatever that might be. We don't know the ins and outs of that. But do you have a general idea of what you would like to see them do this offseason with who might be moved or certain players that you might be looking at targeting in general?
So for me, as I sit here today, a day after the failure was concluded, as Kevin pointed out, we're recording this on Wednesday. Those just for housekeeping for those of you at home. Okay, I think, to me, everybody should be open to discussion besides Donovan Mitchell and Evan Mobley. Those are the only two I'm holding off.
Okay, so Mitchell, so you would classify right now Donovan Mitchell, Evan Mobley, untouchables. No matter what the offer is, you're not making it.
Yes, because I think Evan Mobley is going to get that much better. Look, he peaked. His defense was the best in the league this year. It's not going to get any better.
Defensive player of the year.
Right.
Yep. 100%.
He took a huge step offensively this year. Huge step. And I think there's still more. There's another staircase to climb there for him offensively. And I think that the offense maybe should be prioritized a little bit more around Evan Mobley.
Yeah, I do disagree with you here. So I would classify Donovan Mitchell, if you're trying to keep some of the core together, you got to keep Mitchell. I don't understand, and I've never understood what makes Evan Mobley so untouchable amongst this fan base. I 100% want to clarify, I totally get that he is a generational defensive player. He's the first defensive player of the year in Cavs history. The best defender we've probably seen in a Cavs uniform of all time. He's absolutely phenomenal defensively. Offensively, he did take a step this year. I don't think it was as giant as the fan base makes it out, but he definitely did. The three-point shot was there. It was more consistent. We did see him become a little bit more aggressive down low and going for his shot. What will never cease to drive me crazy is when he gets a defensive rebound and we've got Donovan Mitchell, Darius Garland, even Ty Jerome. Let's say 2 out of the 3 of those guys, even one of those guys is right next to him, like clapping for the ball. And Evan Mobley starts dribbling, runs it down, never passes it when he drives down, immediately posts up, fumbles it out of bounds. How many times did we see that over the 82-game year or the 82-game season and in the playoffs? That absolutely drove me nuts. I don't know if you're ever going to be able to teach him to not do that because he's been doing it for 4 years ever since he's gotten here. I don't trust him offensively. He was dropping passes. It was game 4, I want to say. Dropped like 3 passes in the first 6 minutes of the game that went out of bounds, and then the game was just over from there. And I'm not blaming the 40-point deficit at halftime on 3 dropped Evan Mobley passes, but I hope you get my point here. I don't trust him offensively. I heard Ken Carman this morning had to take that Evan Mobley needs to be the best player on this team in order for us to win a championship. This guy is the second best player I think universally, if you could ask the fan base, I'd say second best player on this team, and we're a second-round exit. What makes you think we get rid of our best player right now? Evan Mobley's our best player, and all of a sudden we become better and a championship contender. I think that's absolute blasphemy, and I don't think Evan Mobley is as untouchable as I think he is for the Cavs organization. I think if he was like the 12th overall pick and he just won Defensive Player of the Year and his offense is what it is right now, we're talking about packaging him for something. See, I genuinely believe that.
I'm gonna push back on a few things you said here. So I don't mind when he brings up the basketball because he has shown the ability to pull up and shoot for a three just like a guard would. So
I've seen Jared Allen make threes. I don't want to bring him the ball up the court.
I have no problem with Evan Mobley doing that. I have no problem, look, with Evan Mobley in general, and I think there is still more room for him to grow and become better. When he got drafted, a lot of the comps was Giannis. It took Giannis 5 or 6 years to become the guy he is now. It didn't happen overnight. Look at Giannis' first 2 years. He couldn't even start in Milwaukee. And
well, that's because he was also drafted later than him. I think if Giannis is a top 3 pick, he starts immediately.
No, because he wasn't that. It's like those guys, look, it takes some time for some guys. And Evan Mobley's been a slow burn. And this year was the first year you saw it really pay off, and I think it's going to continue to even get better. And look, there's no way to me that this team benefits by them moving Evan Mobley. I don't see it. Like, I don't see them getting better by moving Evan Mobley. To me, he's untouchable. Garland, I wanted to trade him last year. I desperately wanted to trade him, but I didn't think they could get anything for him. That was my big, argument as to why they couldn't trade him. And Garland this year played better, but still he
was an all-star.
He played better. He was good. But, again, he always seems to get hurt when it matters most. I think they can move Darius Garland and get something very valuable. The problem is, again, he's kind of overpaid. And that's an issue.
He's a what, 24-year-old all-star point guard? I think you're signing anybody to that for like 5 years, $195 million. An all-star point guard that's basically either just touching his prime or about to get there. I think that's pretty much the market.
Okay, so all the arguments you make for Garland, why aren't those same arguments there for Mobley?
For what?
Because you said like a 24-year-old point guard.
Well, that's the market for him. We're talking about contract-wise, how much money it is.
Touching his prime, like that's why I wouldn't move Evan Mobley. He's even younger, and I think he's just starting to scratch the surface.
I don't see anything that we saw this year that Evan Mobley is just gonna just get insanely better at to the point where he's leading a franchise as a number one guy ever. I think if Evan Mobley is our number one guy, you better get used to a lot of second round exits. You better get used to a lot of second round exits if we're putting all our eggs in the Evan Mobley basket.
Well, I'm not putting all I my other untouchables.
You just said he was untouchable.
Yeah, no. My other untouchable is Donovan Mitchell. Don't forget about that.
No, I'm not.
So those are the two guys. Like anybody else, you can Ty Jerome. I don't see how he's brought back at this point. I don't see it.
Yeah, it would be. He alluded to something a couple weeks ago about how much he loves Cleveland, and be willing to do something to make him stay here. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out this offseason. I'm not opposed to having Craig Porter as the backup point guard. I'm really not.
No,
if we can't afford Jerome,
I'm not either, and I think that kid. There's a lot of potential there too. There's a lot of guys who probably need, like, their time should come to an end in Cleveland. Like, I love Dean Wade. He's like the longest tenured Cav, I believe. Like, him or Garland have both been here forever. But if you could somehow move Dean Wade to free up a little money, I would.
Dean Wade's on a pretty affordable contract, though, if I remember correctly, right? Like, he's not making a ton. Like,
he is, but
he's a guy for what he's making. Like, I value his contract. I know you're probably gonna be happy that I say this. I value him and his contract more than I do Isaac Okoro's.
Yeah, that was a mistake. Like, that whole bringing him back was a total disaster. I really.
Can I ask how it was a disaster? Like disaster, like ruining the season, disaster.
Well, they overpaid for him. He still can't play offense, and he's the 5th overall pick, and they paid him a lot of money. Yeah, he plays
10 to 15 million a year is like pennies on the dollar in the NBA. Now, I'm not saying Isaac Okoro's a stud by any means, but like I see a lot of pretty bad players making 20 to 25 million, and this guy's making like 10 to 15.
I don't know how they're going to be able to get rid of him, but it'd be nice if they could. Now, especially with DeAndre Hunter on the team, Isaac Okoro is just so useless. Like, he's such a useless element.
I agree. Well, DeAndre Hunter is just Isaac Okoro with better offense and better rebounding and better passing.
Yeah, unfortunately, none of which really show up in the playoffs outside of that game 3 in Miami. I try to keep DeAndre Hunter around because I think
he'll be here.
I think he should be back. Like, my big thing would be try to move Garland and Allen, see if you could swing it for like a big deal to make something happen to help out Donovan and Evan.
So I don't think that this is going to happen, but this is what I'm thinking through is that we kind of need a number one. I think Donovan Mitchell, I don't think he's going to be a championship winner as a number one on a team. I don't. I think if you can do Garland and Allen, I'm sure more would have to be thrown in, but let's just say this is the baseline for this deal. Garland and Allen for Giannis. Again, this is hypothetical. I don't think this is going to happen. I think you instantly become potentially the favorite to win it all. I actually believe that because you got Giannis and Mobley in the paint. Mobley can stretch out and shoot the 3 like we were just talking about. You've got Hunter at the 3, Strus at the 2, Mitchell at the 1. Your lineup immediately becomes bigger, better defensively, and honestly, like still a solid shooting lineup. Like I think that's a fantastic lineup and would probably be the favorite.
Yeah, it's a nice hypothetical. It'd be great, but I don't see it happening. The Bucks aren't going to give him to somebody in division. I mean, I think they are going to have to move him just because the NBA and the players control the league. The owners and the GMs have no say in this league. That's the way they wanted it. That's the way it goes. There's got to be somebody else maybe.
My whole thing is what options do the Bucks really have? Because they don't control any of their draft picks until it's like 2030 or 2031. So they've got like 4 or 5, maybe 6 seasons until they control their own draft pick. If they start tanking, they don't even get those draft picks. Like, you might as well try to field together a competitive team, which if you get rid of Giannis, you get, like we just talked, a 24-year-old all-star point guard and a center who was just an all-star a couple years ago. That's, I believe, between age 25, 26, 27, somewhere in there. A center that's in his prime. I think the first person that's got to go is Allen. I think this is 3 straight seasons he's gotten out-physicaled in the playoffs. He's shown a lack of want. He's basically come out and said that he does not love basketball but basically just picked it up in high school, was pretty good at it, got tall, and he's good at it, so he plays it and makes a ton of money doing so. And you can tell that in the playoffs that he doesn't genuinely love the game.
There was a couple clips on Twitter X last night where Jared Allen's effort really should be questioned.
No, I think he's my number one person I'd want to see go. I think Evan Mobley actually slides into the 5. That's his more natural position. And then he can stretch out to the 3, and then shoot a 3. But I think he's best served as your true center.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's a couple different things that they can do, and we'll see who becomes available and all that because people are always on the move in the NBA. It's nuts. But yeah, the bottom line is, and I think we can disagree, and we did clearly on how they structure it and who should be priority 1 and priority 2. Clearly, we view that differently, but the bottom line is we both sit here a day after they lost again. They cannot run it back. Like,
no, they can't.
All they changed last year was the coach.
I will say I think the odds of them running it back are about 90%, though. I don't think we're going to see like the massive changes, even though that's what we need to happen in order for this team to move. I mean, we saw Donovan Mitchell had a Defensive Player of the Year in Utah with them, and they were out in the second round. And Rudy Gobert. So Donovan Mitchell can't get out of the second round as a number 1 guy. We've seen it since his Utah days. This is 6 straight years of seeing him get bounced in the second round. There has to be I don't know, man. I don't know what the best course of action is for this team because I don't think you can really upgrade your number 1 right now, but I also don't think that your number 1 currently can get you past the second round. And I also don't think you should blow the entire thing up. The Cavs are in a very, very weird spot right now.
Well, they believe in that building that they're a young up and coming team, but how can you still believe that? You just keep plateauing. Like You're not up and coming anymore. You were the 1 seed. You were the favorite. Like this up and coming BS, cut it out.
No, you're
Nobody
there.
wants to hear. You're not up and coming.
We were up and coming in 2021 before we had Donovan Mitchell, and Darius Garland was in his 3rd year, and Evan Mobley was a rookie, and like that, we were up and coming. We were a 3 seed, like 60 games into the year, and then just a tale of the story, whatever.
Tale of two halves.
Tale of well, it's just like, I don't know, man.
You could even argue. Look,
It's
I'm
just the
not
tale
gonna
of the Cavs, basically,
I'm
is
not
that
gonna say
their
a tale of-
season they get derailed by injuries every single year.
I'm not going to say a tale of two halves this year, but like look at their numbers post All-Star break, and like they kind of gave us some warning signs. Like
They did this last year too, except I believe it was coming out of the All-Star break when we had injuries that they won like 9
sorry,
in a row.
did I say going in?
Yeah.
I meant coming out. Like they shot the hell out of the basketball all year long. Shot the hell out of it. Look at their numbers post All-Star break, 3 points. You start seeing it slowly trickle down. And then you go against Indiana. They couldn't hit the broadside of a barn in the middle of a field. I mean, it was ridiculous. They could not shoot the ball against Indiana.
No, I mean, we had our best player miss 3 crucial free throws with like a minute and a half left in that game Tuesday night.
Oh, yeah. And he shot, 2 of 10 from 3 last night?
Yeah,
Matt-
and people want to say, Donovan Mitchell had 35 points. He did everything he could. Did you see the efficiency and how many points came from the free throw line? Like, let's not act like he was just pull up 3-ing and dunking on people the whole game. Come on. It was like an unwatchable 35 points, if I'm going to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I thought, he got it going when he had to, but he missed a lot of free throws. Max Strus telling everybody, if you don't want to be here, well, you didn't want to be there. You shot 0 of 9.
Yeah, he said, if you don't want to be here, don't show up. And Max Strus didn't show up. So
he
didn't
was
wanna be
there.
Yeah.
It kind of feeds into my argument earlier. I thought the most efficient Cav last night, and the best one was Evan Mobley.
No, hey, listen, I thought Evan Mobley was actually the best Cav last night as well, Tuesday night. I genuinely do believe that Evan Mobley was the best Cav on the floor Tuesday night.
I think Evan Mobley was maybe the second best player for Cavs wise behind Mitchell in the series. I mean,
for the series, Strus is up there. I mean, he had a bad game 5 and obviously a horrible end of game 2. But Max Strus was, we'll say top 3 player.
Max Strus did show up this series. Like he really kind of was the second, and that's the other thing that I have an issue. Like you ran stuff all year for these guys. Like Kenny, what happened in the playoff? Did Rick Carlisle perplex you that much? Like, look, Kenny Atkinson looked like, Phil Jackson, and when he threw that 3-2 zone at the Pacers in Game 3 with Mobley at the top, and Indiana could not. I mean, it really screwed Halliburton up. Rick Carlisle went back to his drawing board, came up with something, and Kenny Atkinson went back to his drawing board and evidently didn't come up with anything.
Yeah.
I mean, and I don't want to put it all on Kenny because it's the NBA. It's not all that much about coaching. It still is. But players got to play too.
Right.
Kenny's guys didn't show up, but let's not make a mistake here, folks. Rick Carlisle coached circles around Kenny this series.
Rick Carlisle is just an elite coach in general, and he's been an elite coach for decades.
Oh, yeah.
He's an absolute stud.
I mean, that guy, no matter it's been Detroit, Indiana, Dallas, Indiana again, round 2, the guy figures out how to get it done and wins important games. And that's why, whether people want to say that they lucked in there or not, guess what? Rick Carlisle, Tyrese Halliburton, Miles Turner, and the fellas are seeing their second straight Eastern Conference Finals. I do believe the Knicks are going to win that series.
I do too.
But don't be surprised if it goes 7.
Yeah, I am looking forward to that series. I do want to say, in terms of for finals preferences, I would like to see New York in there as opposed to Indiana, just because I don't really think Indiana is going to be able to beat any of those teams from the West. I don't think New York will either, but I think just MSG in the finals, and I think Brunson will have a couple takeover games. I think it'll make for better TV, and I think it'll make for better games if the Knicks are in the finals.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're the better team, but I think they could have a hell of a time with Indiana. The problem is, like Miles Turner, we had no answer for all series long.
Yeah, and we've got 2 7-footers down in the paint. One of them has to go.
When I think we both agree who should.
Yep, right.
The Knicks, they're going to come at you with Karl Anthony Towns, who hasn't been great, but then Mitchell Robinson, who is useless offensively, but he is a threat to anybody defensively. Cavs fans saw that a few years ago.
Yeah, and Mitchell Robinson's finally being used in the perfect role. I wasn't a huge fan of that Knicks deal this past offseason with the Timberwolves. I honestly wasn't a huge fan from either side. But now that Mitchell Robinson is coming off the bench as basically the rim protector that they're giving 15 minutes a night to, every single minute he's out there, that presence is felt.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree wholeheartedly. Well, obviously we disagree on Evan Mobley.
Yeah.
Anybody else like that who would your untouchables be to send it back there?
My only untouchable right now would be Mitchell, and the only reason for that is because I think if we moved him, all we would get is younger players and picks that wouldn't really fit with the current team. So I think Mitchell has to be part of the game plan moving forward. And he's genuinely my only untouchable right now. It would take more to get an Evan Mobley than it would for Darius Garland or Jared Allen for me. So Evan Mobley, he would be next on the list as hard as I've been on him. But Mitchell would be the only one. And I feel like, so I know we made the comparison earlier of Giannis or Mobley being compared to Giannis and growing up, whatever. So going into next year, let's say, and this is another hypothetical scenario that will never happen. Let's say the Cavs swap Mobley for Giannis, just straight up hypothetical scenario. Do you think the Cavs are better?
Mobley for Giannis?
Just straight up, yeah. Just a hypothetical scenario.
I mean, for next year,
Next
yes.
year and next year alone, absolutely.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
But moving in the future, no way. I think Giannis is, I guess he's still in his prime right now, but I mean, he's probably starting. He's
probably 2 years away from exiting it.
Well, I was just gonna say, he's probably if you're comparing it to golf, he's probably getting a hot dog at the turn right now, and he's heading towards that back nine.
Yeah, I mean, he's got one, maybe 2 more years of elite basketball, I think, in him. And then we'll start to see him, kind of the Kevin Durant, start working his way back down.
So versus where Mobley, to me, like, I think he's still like.
I think Mobley's closer to his ceiling than the fan base thinks he is.
No, I don't. I'm with the fan base on this one. I think Mobley, he's only like, he's at hole 4 in the tee box right now.
How much better do you really think Evan Mobley can get?
Oh,
I'm genuinely curious.
No, I think when it's all said and done, Evan Mobley will be a superstar.
Tell you what, dude, you teach that guy to catch a basketball and not throw it out of bounds, and I'm right there with you.
No, I mean, look, I remember, a lot of folks forget, but I do remember the early Giannis, like, and there's some things that I see that are similar. Like Giannis, people forget it took him a while to get good. And I know I keep driving that point home, but it's 100% true.
Is it because it's the only person that's taken that long to do it? Like, we're talking about anomalies here. Like, we typically, the superstars that are in the league, we see by year 2, year 3, they are superstars, or that dude's going to be a superstar.
I don't think Brunson showed any signs till he got to the Knicks.
Sure.
I mean, there's another one for you.
Okay. About LaMelo Ball, about 2 years in, star. Anthony Edwards, 2 years in, star.
I mean, this is
Paolo Banchero, rookie year, star.
This is a little bit less of one, but like, it took Julius Randle a hell of a long time to get as good as he is now.
I still, you and I have disagreed on this. I still think Julius Randle is one of the most overrated players in the entire NBA.
No, I don't.
Because he just racked up stats on a horrible Knicks team for 4 years.
They weren't horrible. They beat the Cavs.
I'm not talking. Well, he was with the Knicks before Brunson got there.
Yeah, no, I disagree with like everything.
I mean, Colin Sexton. We thought Colin Sexton was a beast for us, and then he. What is Colin Sexton anymore?
Probably a 6th man.
Yeah, 7th, maybe 8th. Yeah.
Well, I mean,
exactly. So if you put an average player on a horrible basketball team, somebody's got to do the stat providing.
Yeah, no, look, that Knicks team that beat the Cavs, Brunson wasn't even there yet, was he?
Yeah, he was.
Oh, that was his first year, yeah.
That was his first year in New York.
But I want to say...
And that did come out of nowhere, that Brunson resurgence.
No, look, that's the thing. Like, to me, I'm not moving Evan Mobley. I just have too much faith. And I think I could criticize... Like, one of the big things why I think he did so much better offensively this year is because Kenny centered some things around him. JB didn't make anything about Evan Mobley.
Dude, we saw, what's his face, RJ Nembhard or whatever his name is for the Pacers. We saw him out-rebounding Evan Mobley sometimes in the post, for Christ's sake. And the guy's 7 foot, and he's supposed to be the number one guy for the Cavs. And this guy can't even grab. He's giving them an extra offensive possession.
No,
Now, I'm not expecting him to grab every rebound, but for the guys that are 6'4", 6'5" that are below, yeah, I'm expecting you to grab the rebound 100 out of 100 times.
I don't know. We're just nowhere close on our Mobley views.
All right. Well, I don't want to be the guy that says I told you so, but in 10 years when we look back on these Cavs teams and Evan Mobley was a top 2 player on them and we never got to a conference finals, I'm going to be the guy that says it.
Well, we'll see who's right. We were both wrong on this series.
Yeah, we were. I thought they'd get to the conference finals. They didn't. So I'll absolutely admit to being wrong on that as well.
We were both wrong. However, I did promise a friend of mine that I'd shout him out. And I don't have any with me, but you told him to eat paint chips when the Cavs didn't get out of the second round. So for that specific friend, if you're listening, I have a nice big bowl of paint chips for Kevin when we get home, and he's going to chow down tonight.
I'd also like to know what your friend predicted after the Cavs beat the Heat by 60 to go to the second round. I'd also like to know that prediction.
He told me Indiana was going to win.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He did.
I didn't hear it on the show, so
well, I
it's easy to say
got
in
the receipts,
hindsight.
man. I got the receipts.
Okay.
I got the
All right.
receipts. But so,
I'm willing to doubt that he did that, but
no, I got the receipts. Well, you're gonna
you
have
have to pull him up.
You're gonna have some paint chips when you get home, and I'm gonna not.
When you pull up the receipts, and I'll see his Cavs Indy prediction as of a week and a half ago. Then I'll eat paint chips.
All right, fair enough. I got the receipts. It's factual. Regardless, I will say this, that I think the entire organization, if they're going to sit there and believe that they can run it back and something different's going to happen, nothing's going to change, and it's going to be a failure again next year. And I personally, I don't give a crap if the Cavs win 75 games next year and break the all-time record. I'm not buying in. I refuse, because
Yes, you will.
I sold my soul to buying in this year, believing that they were going to win it all.
Your brother and I had been telling you since game 50 or 60 probably this year that until they beat the Celtics, we don't believe in them. And all this blind faith in Cleveland that happens whenever any of our teams are a little bit above average, and in this case they were elite, but I mean, come on, what in this group over the last 3 years can you ever say that you can predict them to go to the finals again until they actually have a massive change? They've stayed stagnant for 2 off seasons in a row outside of a coaching change with the same result.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna have no faith in them to move forward because they can't even get to the semifinals. Like, I mean, they can't get to the conference finals, the overall semifinals. Like,
They
and
can't do it.
last year I thought a big piece of it was injuries, but I'm not. Look, the Garland thing did suck, but
You could tell specifically Tuesday night that his toe was really bothering him. There were some jumps that he reacted to a little bit differently, like jumped the foot up a little bit, and he was kind of hopping on one foot for a couple seconds. Like, you could tell that he was really battling through his foot injury.
yeah, he looked bothered. I mean, Evan Mobley, I don't know how much he seemed to be okay from his ankle overall. I mean, it didn't really seem to hit. Maybe that's why he didn't get that rebound over Andrew Nembhard. Ankle was bothered.
He's still got like 7 inches on the guy. He could grab the rebound.
No, he doesn't want to go up that high. If the ankles bother him, you can't come down that. Either way, I feel as a Cavs fan though less inclined to blame injuries this year than I did last year.
Yeah, I agree. I think injuries, while they were a small factor, weren't nearly as significant as last year.
They choked. They didn't shoot the ball well. Injuries were a factor, and all three can
And
be
they got
true.
outcoached. They got outcoached.
All three can be
I also
true.
will say, and I'm not going to blame the series on this. I don't even think the Cavs lost a game because of this. But the officiating, could we go a possession without a whistle being called this series? It seemed like it was a free throw contest, like the entire series.
Well, we talked about this for a long time last week. The NBA needs to get a hold on this because it's like I said, from Breathe the Blood. Like,
Yeah, it was the episode title last week.
yeah, and that's what it is. Like, you breathe on somebody in the regular season, they're blowing the whistle. Literally in the playoffs, it's like, okay, things get a little bit out of hand, like they did with Benedict Mathurin and DeAndre Hunter, and then the officials respond and freak out and just blow the whistle every 30 seconds.
Well, and nothing would have happened unless DeAndre Hunter actually went over there and pushed him. Like, they would have never caught him. He just blatantly out of nowhere punched him in the gut. Like, for no reason.
Well, I wouldn't say out of nowhere. There was some jaw in the previous game.
Well, sure, but there was nothing like physical that would have led to that. He just, if you're yapping, like you and I, like right now, we've disagreed pretty frequently throughout this episode of this podcast, and I have not hauled off and punched you in the gut yet.
Right. No, that's true. That's 100% true. Look, the NBA has, in my opinion, a lot of problems right now, and I think officiating is just another one.
You want to get to another one? The NBA draft lottery.
Yeah. I mean, it's fixed, but I'm not going to complain about it because it when it was fixed 3 out of the 4 years for the Cavs, it worked out.
Yeah, I mean, it was fixed for us to get LeBron. It was fixed when LeBron left, and we got 3 out of 4. There has been no better beneficiary than the Cleveland Cavaliers in the NBA draft lottery. Like, we have benefited the most, I think, out of any other team in NBA history from the draft lottery.
I'm going to put a little gas on the fire. It got us the 3rd pick in Evan Mobley, baby.
I mean, I think we were supposed to have a top 3 pick that year, but regardless, I would have rather had Scotty Barnes, but...
Ew. Scotty Barnes ever been in the postseason?
I think he might have made a play-in. Maybe he was a 6 seed one year.
That's another. If we want
yeah, I agree. 20 out of 30 teams make the postseason because anything past game 82 is technically postseason.
Yes.
Playoffs, I'll argue, are 1 through 8.
We could sit here, maybe a midsummer episode when we have, maybe get back into it once the season's over. And we could go through the laundry list of problems the NBA has.
Yeah. I mean, I do want... Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
And I know that the NBA truthers out there are going to defend it and think it's wonderful and perfect. But guess what? There is a reason that your ratings are just going down the tubes. You have a lot of problems. And this guy, Silver, LeBron's puppet, he doesn't seem to have the backbone to fix any of them. So
no, and I did want to go back to the lottery point really quick. I just think there's so many instances of it clearly being rigged.
I agree.
Like, clearly. Like, obviously we mentioned the LeBron years, and even during when the Cavs got the 3 out of 4 number 1 picks, like, obviously I loved it. I'm a Cavs fan and wanted the number 1 pick each of those years, but I also still did not agree with it, if that makes sense. Like, I didn't agree that that's the way that it should be handled. You go back to that 2019 draft, 2018 or 2019, it was the Zion Williamson draft, and the Lakers, who were a game out of the postseason, jump up to 4, and then the Pelicans get the number 1 pick. What, so that the Lakers can just make a package to get Anthony Davis? Like, it all just made way too much sense for the Lake to make sure that another star goes with LeBron. And then obviously now, they make the worst trade, Nico Harrison and the Mavericks make like the worst trade in NBA history and get rewarded with the number 1 pick.
Yeah.
Right after they missed the playoffs. Are you kidding me?
Well,
like, try to make it more obvious.
Well,
try.
I agree with you, and I'm gonna dive into my bag of conspiracy theories here this year. I think what happened, Adam Silver saw what was happening, and that guy, Nico Harrison, who's just a moron, now when he does his press briefings, they're not allowed to record him. I mean, come on. Like, why are the Mavericks trying to make this guy something he's not? He's not a good NBA GM. Okay. No. So this guy, you see him getting the death threats and the hate and all that. And I think he called it Silver and says, you got to fix this thing for me. I mean, he goes, they're not going to fire him. The Mavericks owner said, you got to fix it for my guy. He goes, because I'm not firing Nico, and Silver says, we got you covered.
I read a different conspiracy theory that I think is the one that I'm more so aligned with, and that it's that Silver went to the Mavericks and said, hey, we need a star post LeBron in LA. We think Luka, Los Angeles Luka, think it makes a lot of sense. We'll give you Anthony Davis, a first-round pick in 2029. Then if you guys don't make the postseason, we'll give you the number 1 overall pick.
Well, he probably told him not to. He says, you guys got to start losing.
Well, right, yeah.
Yeah.
So now if you're a Mavericks fan, like, I'm happy. The thing is, I'm happy for Mavericks fans, ones that were heartbroken over Luka, but I'm not happy for the Mavericks organization, and I don't know if that makes sense at all, the way that I'm wording it. But I'm happy that the fans don't have to just, like, watch this misery continue when they already had a superstar, but I'm also, like, the Mavericks organization screwed up big time and just get bailed out because of it.
Yeah, that Nico Harrison, he's a buffoon.
And tanking, I don't agree with it, but yeah, it's part of it. It can be part of it. Like if the Browns, when the Browns went 0-16, could you imagine if we were rewarded with the number 6 overall pick? When we went 0-16, could you imagine that?
Yeah. Okay. See, this is where I disagree. I hate tanking.
I'm not a fan of it either.
I don't have any respect or tolerance for it. So I do like if you're gonna have a draft lottery, just make it an actual lottery. Just don't fix it for whoever needs it at the time.
Or maybe you do like the bottom 5 teams. It's a lottery. Not every team that misses the playoffs should be put into that lottery. You're talking about people who were on the cusp of like playing for the title, and then you're just like toss them into a lottery, and you might get the best player in this draft.
Well, I will say it's kind of similar to when to switch gears here, the Guardians. I mean, they had a great year in 2022, 2023. They literally were not that great. And then they got the number 1 overall pick, and then went back to win the division and be a Final Four team. Like that's it did help us there, in baseball terms.
And I've said Cleveland, specifically NBA, just because that's what we were talking about. But yeah, it did help us in the MLB. But Cleveland, the city, has maybe been the biggest benefactor of the lottery, of a lottery. Yeah, and I do not agree with it. I don't agree with the lottery at all.
So
I never have, but. It is what it is, but yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it should be more of a fair lot. I don't think the NFL is ever going to go to a draft lottery.
No, and I don't think they ever should. I saw that idea put out there. I think Adam Schefter had said a lottery would be cool, and everybody is like, please don't. Because you know what would happen? The 49ers this year would have got the number 1 pick.
Yeah, I don't know. But then the NFL, dude, that's the only problem. Where you don't have a lottery, they just make tanking so blatantly obvious sometimes. In the NFL, we've had some pretty rough, week 17 result or week 18 now.
Sure, but sometimes when you are a team that is really, really trying to rebuild, I'm going to say, and I know this is typically my go-to team in this instance, but for example, the Charlotte Hornets, they might not ever become something because they don't really have a chance in these lotteries. What does it do for the NBA if the Hornets get the number 1 pick? It does nothing.
No.
So, they're never going to get it.
Yeah. I don't know. I just think that if there's any in sports that are rigged, it's got to be the NBA.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think they almost tried to make it too obvious that it wasn't rigged when the Pelicans got it, even though it became more obvious that they rigged it. And the only reason I say that is because there were those rumors about Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving teaming up in New York, and then if the Knicks got the number 1 pick, they get Zion, and everyone was so excited about that potentially becoming a possibility, and then it didn't happen. Right. So I think the NBA almost went through too many hoops to try to make it look not rigged, and it ended up just looking more rigged in the process. I don't know. Never been a fan of it, and I think NBA is just one of those leagues that do just about everything incorrectly.
Yeah, like I said, we can sit here and do an episode sometimes on, but the NBA truthers don't want to believe it. There's a reason your ratings are plummeting.
Oh, absolutely.
So
it's an unwatchable product when my team's not in it.
Yeah. So let's get to once again, we pretty much spent this as a Cavs recap episode. Yeah. So if you were tuning in for some other things, sorry, but it was just kind of Cavs reaction Wednesday, and I don't think either of us thought we'd be doing it this early. Quickly.
Although I don't know what we would have talked about if if they didn't get bounced this early. There's nothing really going on.
I know exactly what I talked about.
You talked about the stadium.
We could talk about the stadium. We could talk about the Guardians. But we also, on the other flip of things, we could be sitting here talking about resting. Like Indiana is, who are we going to get?
And previewing Knicks, Celtics. Are we going to get
the Knicks? Are we going to get the C's?
Yeah. No, I know.
We had so much. And unfortunately, we had to sit here and do a show where we bitched the entire time, and rightly so. But the people who, I guess some of you saw this coming, God bless you. Us two can firmly say we didn't. We were wrong. And tune in the future to see. Maybe we'll be right next time. But anyway, let's get to odds and ends, Kevin. You mentioned it off the top tonight. Corey Kluber, officially, he's been spotted in the dugout probably the last month or so, officially getting his title and role with the organization today. To me, I think this is real simple. Carl Willis, when he says he wants to go, Corey Kluber's the pitching coach.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's
Yeah.
pretty. I think that's pretty clear.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's pretty awesome though too.
Yeah, it's pretty
that Kluber's
cool.
back.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Maybe he could teach some of these guys how to throw a sinker. It certainly worked for him for a long time.
Yeah, it did.
Speaking of that, the Guardians starting pitching, and I know coming off a 9-5 loss to the Brewers today, it's been really good over the last week or so, so that's something to keep an eye on. And the offense seems to be showing some signs. Still some guys struggling. My Bo Naylor bold prediction doesn't look good. He is hitting for more power.
Hey,
but
neither
not,
does my Nolan Jones.
Yeah.
That was my breakout player of the year
Yeah.
so far. I mean, granted, we're 35, 40 games in right now.
Yeah. And
so, I mean, it's still only 20, 25% through the year.
those
but
damn Tigers just won't lose, though. And if we want to talk about one of the biggest flips of the script in sports, Javi Baez becoming a good player again is just mind-boggling.
Otherworldly center fielder, too. Like a
Yeah.
great defender.
Oh, my. I mean, this is like literally, like, talk about like anomalies in pro sports. Like, you're talking about a guy who was a big piece of the Cubs' 2016 World Series team
Yep.
and was good through about 2020. 2021, he was okay. Like, this is a guy who hasn't been good for 5 years. Like, he's got to be an all-star right now, the way he's playing.
Yeah, he's a stud. I've always been a fan of Javi too, and the last couple of years have been funny. The slider jokes and stuff like that, and it has been funny, and I found a lot of humor in it. But it is nice to see him get back to form. Like, I consider those 2015 to 2020 years of watching the Tribe pretty much my prime years of watching them, like the years that I remember the most. And Javi was a big part of that, whether it was good or bad. So it's nice to see one of those players get back up and swinging the bat well.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, one more odds and ends thing. This Sunday is the Cleveland Marathon. And
Yes.
Kevin and my brother are both partaking. My brother partaking in the half.
I am not. My brother and your brother.
Yes, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Both of our brothers are
Yes.
participating.
And Kevin's brother running the full thing. So good luck to both of them. I also know several other people running the race. Look, if you can't figure it out, look at your camera. I'm a pretty big guy. I can't begin to think about doing something like that, running 13.2 or 13.1 or 26.2 miles. So I give every single person who's going to be out there in the land on Sunday a lot of credit. Pretty cool stuff. So shout out to all the runners in Cleveland, especially both of our brothers who are participating. And we'll be down there to support them. So if you see us, say hello.
Yeah, please.
Yeah.
Please say hi.
And tell us how wrong we were, how right we were on something.
Yeah,
But,
I might even have a couple paint chips in me by that point. Who knows?
All right. Well, that'll do it for us this week. Derek, good job over there, buddy. Thanks for keeping it all together. Kevin, good job out of you. We gotta get you out of here. You got a nice bowl of paint chips waiting. And that'll do it for us. Make sure to follow us on social media at CLE Sports Realm. You could follow us on X, most commonly known as Twitter. We're on TikTok. We're on the IG for your kids too.
That's right.
And then the podcast is available via YouTube and video, and then Spotify and Apple Music. So make sure to like, subscribe, and give a thumbs up for your boys. That'll do it for us. We're out of here. We'll talk to you next week. Enjoy. Go Guardians.
Go Mike. Go Rob.